Welcome to LabCast, a podcast about the medical laboratory science profession, brought to you by MedLab Convo. To get notified once we drop an episode, you can do well to subscribe to all our social media platforms at MedLab Convo. For questions, feedbacks, and shout-outs, you can do well to send a mail to at medlabconvolabcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.
For many medical laboratory science graduates in Nigeria, induction ceremony is a core memory. It's a proud moment that marks the end of one journey and the beginning of another. But the problem is that what follows after isn't always as clear cut. For some, internship placement comes almost immediately. For others, it's the start of a long, uncertain wait, one that can stretch for months or even up to a year, like in my case. Some have to wait more than a year. So, what can you do if you are stuck in that pre internship phase where you feel like your patience, your motivation, and your sense of direction is being challenged, is being tested? How do you redeem that time without breaking down under the weight of uncertainty and pressure? That's exactly what this episode of LabCast is about. I am Ubani Nmesoma, your host. To help us break it down, I am joined by my co host Folaranmi Precious and two amazing guests, Oluwamuyiwa Ogunkoya David and Gimbiya Precious. Our guests are both medical laboratory science graduates who have completed their internships and are here to share practical advice and encouragement for anyone currently navigating this phase. Welcome to the show. I think we should just go straight into the conversation. For the in case there's anybody listening that probably does not know what internship is about or why we have to do internship, can you just briefly tell us what the program is about and why it is important for medical laboratory scientists?
Hello to everybody listening. Just like Mr. Man said, Oluwamuyiwa Ogunkoya, and I've just completed my internship at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. So what's internship about? Well, constitutionally, when I say constitution, I mean by the Act 2003, the MSN Act 2003. It's a mandatory 1 year experience that every medical laboratory science graduate in Nigeria, hoping to practice in Nigeria as well, has to complete before they can eventually practice as a medical laboratory scientist on their own. So without supervision and all of those things. So yeah, it's a 1 year experience of learning, practical experience to emphasize that, where you just really get to do hands-on on most of the things you've maybe had to observe or do a little bit of practical practice on while you are a student. Now you're really on the bench. You are held responsible to some degree for the tests that are run and the results that come out of it, although you're still under supervision from a medical laboratory scientist. So yeah, that's how I would describe the experience.
So now let's talk about the time frame. Typically, how long does it take from graduation to actually starting internship? Because I heard of a story of someone who actually started internship 2 years after graduation, like post graduation. So is there a standard time frame, or it is usually unpredictable?
So I think the story you just shared is relatable. I had a senior in school who graduated and didn't get internship till 2 years after. And it actually doesn't have a time frame. It just, will I say, I want to say luck, because for me it didn't happen immediately. So, and I've had other colleagues who are yet to get. So I wouldn't say it's immediately. So it's just, I'd rather say luck. If you're fortunate or God shows you mercy, you're able to get immediately.
Okay, let's talk a bit about the challenges that people experience, the delays. Okay, for instance, you said you didn't get immediately. What were some of the challenges you faced? Was it like slot allocation?
Okay. The challenges I faced was the fact that, first off, my school didn't induct us immediately. That's one of the major challenges we're having, where you finish project defense and everything, and you don't get inducted immediately. So by the time you're getting inducted, most facilities would have recruited interns, and they are strict on you don't have your provisional license, don't even bother coming for interviews, don't even bother applying, because they would not consider you. So we have the issues of delays in inductions, and then the fact that by the time you're inducted, most facilities have recruited or have picked interns, so you are left to start scouting for facilities. And for some facilities, they don't do exams, so you just go and drop application. If you are fortunate, you get called. If not, you just printed documents and went and submitted. So facilities also have slots that they pick. So if they meet up to the quota, that is it. And then some facilities also are affiliated to university, so they consider their students first. So if you have facilities like that, it becomes a challenge that even if you are qualified, because their students are not yet inducted, they wouldn't pick or recruit at that time, or they would give 70 to 80% of the slots to their students. So you from other universities are left stranded.
Mm. Muiwa, let's dive into internship period wait itself. Have you or someone ever gone through this wait, and what was the experience like? Can you just tell us a bit, like a story, maybe yours or someone? Were there times they felt frustrated or even thought about giving up or even change career paths?
Okay, so I feel a little bit like, well, not a little bit. I feel like an armchair expert, talking about this topic. Somebody who's just like preaching from the sidelines. Because for me, I wouldn't. I mean, I feel guilty sometimes when people talk about these things, and part of me just feels, I don't know. Me, at least on a cognitive level, I try to understand how people are feeling, because there's no way I'm going to really understand, like, feel how they feel about the other. Because for me, I would not say I really got delayed like that. So I finished my project, um and that was around August 2023, if I remember clearly now. And so there was a delay in getting inducted, right? But during the period, I was working as a research assistant somewhere, so it didn't really feel like I was waiting, which is part of one of the things I probably want to say here, as we go on, right? And then I got inducted in December. I started internship in March. I got internship in February. I started in March, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So, and it wasn't really like a waiting period for me, but I've had friends, a lot of friends, where, they share their experience. We talk for hours about the whole issue, the emotional aspect of it, the fact that you're feeling like you're left out of something. I think that for those of us in Nigeria who actually did MLS, there are like three, what I would call, moments of crisis. How they put it, like, yeah, I think I'll call it moments of crisis for you as a professional in medical laboratory science. Like, so the first is when you finish, which is this period that we're talking about, when you finish, um you're waiting to be inducted, and still when you get inducted and when you finish, and when you're waiting to get internship. That's like one. That's So there's part A and B to that. There is the part where you finish um internship and then you're waiting for NYSC. Then there's the part that you finish NYSC and you're waiting to get employed. Right. So personally, I didn't really feel any of that. I didn't go through that experience, but I've had so many friends where that, we talked about the experience, the psychological effects, the emotional damage, the, I don't know, is it brain drain? It's not really brain drain, but then you're like loss of interest. You stop really reading the science, and it's a lot really. Like, if you want to piece it out into like pieces, you probably have many, many crumbles of of the whole to really talk about. So yeah.
Okay, so for me, I had my project defense in May 23, and I didn't get inducted up until September. So I finished project defense in May, came back home. So I had to stay at home all through that period. And before then, I'd stayed a long time in school because of COVID, ASU strike. So a lot of people have been asking, you are still in school, you've not graduated. And then that point that you have supposedly finished defense, but you're not inducted, so you can't actually say you've graduated. And then so between May 2023 to September 2023, I eventually got inducted in September. And then another wait for internship started because as at that September, a lot of facilities had taken intern. So I had very limited options. And that was another challenge. So, but thankfully for me, the fact that I had other things I was doing aside just MLS, I'm into sexual and reproductive health right advocacy. So within those period of time, I was just focused on my side. In fact, at some point, I almost forgot I was a med lab scientist because I wasn't reading anymore. Most of the facilities that were open to me as at that time were ones that didn't require exams. So you just go and drop your document. If you are fortunate, they call you. If not, that is the end of it. So I wasn't even reading. I was just doing SRHR, doing advocacy, and that was it for me up until February. So I had stayed like 6 months till February. I eventually got internship, but in between that, I had to travel for internship exams, and that was a whole lot. I didn't do so much travels for internship exams. I just did two, but that two left me traumatized. I never imagined that I would have to stay till 8:30 p.m. I was not interviewed, and then when they eventually interviewed me, they gave me a small pet drink and biscuits to eat at 8:30 p.m. after I got interviewed. Like, ah, that was a lot. Eventually got in February and I had to resume in March. So it was the like Muyiwa said, the brain drain was there. I lost interest in wanting to read because what are you reading for? There was no certainty of a date. And then so I had to just get busy with my advocacy, and that was what kept me going all through. At some point I felt depressed because people kept asking, you've not gotten internship up to now? And it was, can people just not ask? Can we just leave it that I've been inducted? Yes, internship will happen when it happens.
It's not always that easy because sometimes they are asking out of concern, but then they don't also realize the impact it has on the other person. As somebody that has had lived experience of having to wait a long period of time before internship, it's like these people are concerned, like, what's up, what's going on, is there anyone I can help you? But the persistence and the fact that there's nothing you can do about it just makes the whole thing frustrating. And when it comes to the trauma of traveling, please, we need to start a movement. These hospitals, these facilities, we should see the need to conduct online exams, because in March 2025, the collective number of hours I travel because of internship is is alarming. It's alarming. And one of the travels I made was actually to northern Nigeria. And I had to fly a dangerous route. And while on that route, I just kept thinking, what if something happens to me? Like, what if something bad happens to me? Because as a media journalist, I do news a lot. So I know what happens on that road. And it was traumatizing having to embark on that journey. But Precious, you mentioned that you buried yourself in your advocacy work to keep the time to make the time valuable. Now, what about others? What can graduates in this position, what can they do to stay productive? Would you like recommend volunteering, lab assistant roles? What is it that you would recommend to, how can they redeem their time during this period?
I would totally recommend volunteering for those who are in advocacy. Please keep doing that. Because if I was to say look for labs to volunteer, there's this whole, like, called it segregation now, where they feel like you're a med lab scientist, so they cannot pay you. So they'll just say no, and there's no guaranteed date of you staying or how long you are going to stay. So they are careful to want to pick you to work because you can leave at any moment. So if you are into volunteering, you can volunteer, you can do advocacy, you can offer to be a research assistant. On that could also suffice for things you can do to actually keep yourself busy within those times. If you want to learn a skill, please, you can learn tech skills, you can learn other skills that would help out. But don't stay idle like that. It is actually traumatizing if you stay idle without doing anything. And then you come to class WhatsApp group every day and some people are sharing, they just got internship. You feel like, am I the unlucky one here?
All right, Muyi, would you like to add?
Well, I would say that you know how they say it's a phase. We've just said that they're like moments, they're like phases, right? And the thing about phases is that one doesn't start and then the other one ends like suddenly. Like they almost like feed into each other. That's how phases happen, right? So I really do think that this period actually starts from how well you were preparing. So because it's easy to just recommend volunteering, with people for people to do a research assistant role. But you don't just get these roles. You don't just get research assistant roles just because you find or you look for them. That's one thing to do, yeah. Um, but they tend to happen those opportunities tend to happen or open up in certain circles, right? Same thing with volunteering. You can say, okay, volunteer, but then the person start to think from scratch. Um, where would I volunteer? And the inertia it takes to actually start something at that stage where all you just want to do is you're feeling bad, or you just want to just get the internship is something else. It's a lot, right? So I would say that it's a phase that should start while you're still in school, right? So I'm hoping that people that are still in school are listening to this. I think for me, it was easier for me to navigate that period, even in advance, because I started talking to my seniors very early. From 300 level, I already knew about old internship wahala. I know I even wrote an article on it in one of our magazines then. So like I already had like first-hand information of what the period was like, waiting, trying to get placement. So from 300 level, I'd already started um, sowing seeds in places that I thought were going to be important for me in the future. I hope that's not being seen as being manipulative or being I don't self-centered, but I think I'm naturally an altruistic person. So, but the point I'm trying to make is it's not when you finish school that you really start trying to navigate that period. It's before you finish school. So that's why for some people it may be earlier because they've made the right. Well, I don't like to use the right connection. I prefer the word network. They've made the right network. Let me just put it like that. And it's not to say that people who haven't gotten don't have the right network. I'm just saying like it's better to do this than not to do it, right? So I think if you're going to volunteer during that period, if you're going to find something doing like volunteer based, you have to have started before then. So whether you're into sexual reproductive health or you're into some kind of advocacy, it makes sense if you're finishing school and then you just have more time to volunteer for that. It also makes sense if you've been working with your lecturers before on certain research roles. And when you finish school, instead of just waiting at home, you can just reach. So that's what happened with me, for example. So immediately we finished project, I think it was like some weeks after or a month after, I spoke to one of my mentors and I was like, if there's anything she needs for me to help her with, and that I'm available, especially now that we're not doing anything in school. And I think like a week later, she just texted me and was like, do I think that I would want to like partake in a research, whatever. And that's how I got the role. So like you have to have started establishing some level of relationships, some level of you have to have started doing something basically. So now coming into the whole waiting phase, um what do you do first? Like those things I've already said, research role, volunteering that you've been doing before. But if you haven't, then you can maybe want to look for places to actually volunteer. So one thing I tell people, I had a junior colleague that recently finished um, school, and he was like, "Oh, he has a job that he's doing now, and then internship is coming up soon. He's thinking of quitting the job, the side also, right? He's thinking of quitting side also since internship is coming. He doesn't want anything, like he's planning ahead so that when internship comes, it just eases in like that. Doesn't have to now start quitting and all of that. And I was like, you've not even gotten internship yet. You're already thinking of quitting your job. So I kind of advised him against it, right? So because one thing I tell people is live your life like you're not waiting for internship, right? Like don't wait for internship. And I think that's one thing we generally tell ourselves in MedLab, right? So don't wait for internship. Whatever you want to do with your life, like going forward, whatever you can't do with your life right now, whatever you've been doing, just keep doing those things, do those things, and try to pursue the internships too. So when it comes, if you can combine both, combine, right? If you can't, then you know you have to quit some of those things so that you can manage your schedule better. Then do your internship, and then continue with those things later. Because I think the one thing people do not realize, and I don't know if I have time to really explore this, is I don't think it's very fair to say this, but internship is just for 1 year, right? So all the excitement, all the anticipation, all the pain that comes with not getting it, everything starts and ends within a year. So if you're quitting something for something that you just for 1 year, it means that by the time you're done, you have to go back to scratch again to start doing that thing again, right? So, but if you can like keep doing both of them, it's the best, right? Um, so yeah, so those things, whatever you were doing, whatever you think you can do, if you can pick up a skill, do it. If you're doing anything at the moment, maybe you're trying to find some money for maybe a side also or something, like keep doing those things. Just keep doing whatever you've been doing. Start doing what it is you think would be useful for you in the future, or you can continue doing what you are actually doing at the moment. But don't make your life around that. Oh, internship is coming soon. Like, just don't do it. Just live your life normally. When it comes, it comes, and you're done in 1 year. You're back to life again, right? So because internship makes you feel like when you are doing internship, it makes you feel like you're actually doing something, like you know where your life is headed. In reality, that's not the case because I think it's when you're done that you actually now realize that um the feeling of being employed, that I'm now earning money and stuff, all of that ends in 1 year, and then you're back to square one. The feeling of I have something that I'm doing in my life, everything ends in 1 year, you're back to square one. Like it's just 1 year, and it's a double-edged sword. You can say it's just 1 year, and you can say you don't have to die over it, right? And you can say it's just 1 year and you just want to give it your best and get it done with. Like, so however you see it, but just know that it's just for 1 year. So yeah.
All right, Mui, thank you. That's like the practical and logical aspect to it. But then there's also the emotional burden that comes with having to wait. So I'm going to direct this question to Precious. How can people stay hopeful during this waiting period? And how did you handle the pressure that came with the plenty questions from people that did not understand what the delay was about?
How to stay hopeful? That's a huge question to answer. I think, like Miwa said, just have to live your life like don't wait. So at some point, I had to just take my mind off the whole waiting period. I was at the point of if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, I keep doing what I'm doing. And so that helped me keep myself sane because after school, at some point, I felt like my life was stopped. I couldn't go any further. I couldn't apply a job. I couldn't go for service. And they now said the internship is not compulsory. So I was at that point of you can't move further without this. And so you have stopped at this point. So I just had to keep doing what I was doing and just take my mind off it. It happened. And then how I dealt with people, I think I had to just keep telling them. For those that I had the patience to explain, I explained what was happening. Those that I did not, I just told them, I'm just waiting. And I let it at that because there were some people that literally every week they see me, they have to keep asking. So at some point I stopped going out. I was always in my house so that you don't even see me and you ask me, Precious, you've not gotten internship up to now. They make it sound like you did not apply or you're not making effort. They will not start coming. You did not apply this place. You did not apply this hospital. And I'm like, okay, you apply, but then these people have already picked. So there's nothing, little or nothing. You can't send the application to a place that is not open. At the end of the day, you have to wait for hospitals are recruiting for interns at that point. So I can't really tell how to handle it emotionally. I just feel like just take your mind off it, even though it wouldn't go away. It has a way of coming back to your face to tell you you can't move from this point. You are stuck here. But you just have to take your mind off it. Just try to find things that make you happy. Except if you are one that your happiness is tied to MLS. But if not, find other things that make you happy. Live your life. Build good networks, make amazing friends. If you can travel. If you have the money, travel, and just get your mind off it. You can use that time to visit family and friends that you've not seen for a long while. Just live the life and assume there's nothing like this.
Okay, let me let me quickly share something with you guys. Recently, somebody I went to see some of my classmates at a facility. So while I was gisting with them, they were doing the whole hype that, oh, this person was our course rep in school, this. They were saying a lot of stuff, and we were just laughing and everything. So while I was discussing with that classmate, one of our chiefs came in. I was like, who is this person that you are gisting with? She introduced me basically, and she asked me where I was interning. I said, oh, I'd not gotten internship at the moment, and that's even like why I'm at the hospital, that I came to see if they were still open. And she said, and I quote, what were you doing when others were climbing up? Like, I was so confused. I was like, what were you doing when others were climbing up? I was so confused. I didn't even know what to say to her. See, she, just like you said, Precious, the question sort of felt like people feel like when you've not gotten internship, it means that you're just relaxing, you're not making effort, you're not applying, you're not following up. And most times that's not the case, because realistically, getting internship placements in Nigeria is not even 90% of the time is not merit based, right? So there's that, but maybe it's beyond the scope of the conversation. I'm not sure. But yes, I just wanted to narrate that sometimes it can, as much as you try to be happy, as much as you try to be hopeful, there is always that one person, that one comment that will make you feel like if you're not doing this thing, it doesn't matter what else you are doing. No, it doesn't matter that you have a job, but if you're not doing this thing, your life is not moving forward. You are not climbing up.
Sorry, let me quickly share my own experience. So literally my house, for every time they are going to pray, they would have to pray about my internship placement. So even if I want to off my mind and not think about it, so imagine that they are praying your house like 3 times, and in that 3 times, your name is and they are praying that you get internship. So even when you don't want to think about it, when you come for devotion in the morning and you're just sitting there, they are like, ah, it was a lot.
All right. Muyiwa, I know Muyiwa knows a lot about Medical Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria, our umbrella. Let me use that word. So now let's talk about the role of Medical Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria in this whole process. Can you say they are doing enough, or you think there should be room for improvement? And can you also talk about if centralized posting will work in order to tackle this issue?
Uh, I don't know. I feel like this question should be directed to somebody working in the council, but I'm going to just give it a try, right? So, are they doing enough? To be blunt, no, right? And I don't know who is listening to this, but I think the answer is obvious. Every year we churn out so many graduates. Some of them are from schools that take above the quota that they're supposed to take per year. Um, so first, in fact, as a student in some schools, the number of people in your class is way more than the council would even expect a school to graduate. I'm not too sure how the politics of council versus university law works, right? But this is what is happening. So, of course, there's that initial problem of graduating too many graduates that can fill up this limited internship slot, right? There's that problem. There's a problem of, oh, this year not many people got, so all those people have to be added to the next batch of people that they're supposed to take. And there's so many things. I mean, some hospitals now, I mean, some of them don't take up to the quota they're supposed to take, or something happens, they tell you they don't have money for salary, so they're not taking interns and stuff and all of that. And it's sad because when you sit down and you learn, or you hear from people that have been in the system for a longer period of time, so our senior colleagues, they tell you, in fact, they brag about the fact that the kind of training that we're getting is not even as good as when they were doing the old associate stuff. Now that we are BMLS, they will brag about that the practical experience is way better, was way better than it is now, right? And I think part of the reason for that is because they they, they had like a handful of them. Of course, MLS was just coming up at that point in time, so there were enough trainees, there were enough trainers, there were enough people like taking up the role to train other people, and not so many people were even aware of the course, right? And there was enough. Let me just say there were enough facilities to go around. Um, you would expect that with the growing population of graduates and professionals coming out into the system, you would also have like an increasing or a proportionate increase. Let me not say it because that's been increasing too, but you'd expect a proportionate increase in number of facilities that are able to take these people. But that's not what we're seeing, right? That's not what we're seeing. I think more recently we're having more private institutions take more interns, which is like a welcome development. But there is still a lot of deficit, and something really has to be done because you know you're coming into MLS, you're not seeing 5 years ahead, you're not seeing 6 years ahead, you're not seeing that if I have to do this course. Some people even come into MLS without knowing that they're going to do internship of 1 year. So they are in third year and they realize, oh, there's this thing called internship. And everybody graduates, fine, they spend 5 years, their other mates in other courses spend 4 years. They finish, they expect to do 1 year internship. The prospects are good. The fact that you get to learn and earn, well, you think it's a good thing. And then your mates in other disciplines would finish, do NYSC, graduate, move on, find a job, move on with life, and you're still here waiting for internship. Like, it's not fair, really, right? It's not fair. Maybe the central placement would work, but then it doesn't. I don't think it quenches the fire completely, right? Because the problem is not exactly. So if central placement, you would say, okay, maybe it will be based on merit then, or how would they allocate people? Would it be based on merit? If it's based on merit, we are still going to have deficits, right? Would it be based on, okay, affiliations to certain facilities or certain hospitals? We would still have deficits, right? But central allocation would maybe better, right? Maybe there will be better regulation. Maybe those that haven't gotten for years now, maybe 2 years, they will be picked over people that are just finishing school, which still boils down to the problem of you still have to wait, right? So I'm not sure central allocation actually solves the matter if the council is not doing other things in tandem to ensure that we have more facilities to really cover the number of um, graduates that are coming out of the schools. So I think this would be my best response to this. But yeah, everybody has to do better. Really, everybody has to do better. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, but we see these central placements working for some other medical professionals, like people in medicine and surgery. They usually don't have to apply and apply and apply. They have a central placement style. Is this not something that the Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists of Nigeria can adopt? Is there no way we can have a quota system? I know Muiwa has spoken into this, but I wanted to talk about our professional bodies. Is there something they can do to make this phase easier or shorter for medical laboratory science graduates? Precious, Yarrow.
So I really think I'm one of the people that advocating that we have a centralized system. Honestly, I think it would go a long way in saving us the whole stress of having to do a lot of application. So take for instance, we have the centralized system. And so when you go online, you see all the hospitals that are open at once and you make application. They schedule, so you have a structured way of getting information. And so you it saves you the whole stress of having to travel around, scouting, and you already know these are the hospitals that are open at this time. This is the number they are taking. You apply, they call you. If you are selected, you go. And you rarely even have cases of where you go for interviews. I think for that of medicine and surgery, I don't think I've heard of cases where they apply and they get rejected. It's because they have a centralized system, so it's strong, and you don't get the issue of people doing internship more than once or twice, more than once, because once you've done internship, it reflects there that you've done. But because we don't have a centralized system, I've seen people who have done internship more than once, and so they are occupying the space where other people are supposed to get because of the money. So at the end of the day, imagine one person doing twice. So for the second year, he's already taking the slot of one person. So centralized system will go a long way in saving us the whole stress of having to travel, having to start finding information. In fact, if you don't even have connections to know hospitals that are open, you'll be left out. That's another challenge. Having the right information to know hospitals that are open at a time and when they are closing. You can just hear that this place open. The next thing you don't even hear, you just hear that they've recruited. How it happened, you can't tell. You don't know. You just hear that they've taken it and you be like, how comes? When did they open? When did they close application? And that's why you hear questions like, what were you doing when other people were climbing up? Because you didn't have the right information, you didn't have right access, you didn't know. But if we have a centralized system, we know at once all the facilities that are open. When they are closing, we make applications, and it saves us the whole stress of traveling around.
Yeah, so I'm all in for like systems and structures in place to ensure that, I mean, things go um well. Precious has raised like very, very good points about people doing internship twice and all of those things, getting information, not traveling about, all of those cost intensive stuff. So yeah, I'm all in for like the systems and structures in place to ensure that these things are actually done right. And I don't want to say but at the end of the day, I still feel like there is just not enough facility. So in terms of what the council can do, yeah, the systems and structures, decentralized placement, yeah, but it has to go way more than that, right? So we need to have more facilities. We have to be more intentional about, you know, facilities being able to absorb people in, so the way like MDCN, for example, does theirs, right? I won't say the way because it's not like inside. I'm not like an insider, right? But I feel that they have better um politics, let me put it that way, to ensure that more of their people are taken in any facility, right? So if you check in any hospital, check the number of um, medical laboratory scientists or number of physiotherapists that are taken per batch, and check the number of house officers that are taken per batch. You'd always find that they are disproportionately more, for house officers. So there is the politics. There are a lot of things or other things going on that allows them to take more people at a time, right? That is not really just available um for maybe the profession like medical laboratory science and some other professions like that. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Yeah. So
And I think I want to add to the fact that okay, for the facility I interned, they picked only 16 medical lab scientists. So over 200 applied and they picked only 16. Aside the fact that some of the facilities signed MOU with private all these foreign universities. So by the time we are coming for the exams, you discover that because there's already a signed MOU, there's a certain number of students from these universities that are automatically getting internship. So the slots that are left for with the Nigerian train is very limited. You might discover that in a slot of 30, they're picking only 12 Nigerian train. The rest are for foreign trains because there's an MOU between the hospital and the university. And the open applications, you get over 200 applying, or is it facilities that absorb their students? So once they make open applications, you discover that they will have to take like 50% of their university students, and then the remaining 50 or 40% is for other universities. So I totally feel that centralized system is, let's just have structure like me. Let's just have a structure, please.
I mean, Precious, it's even good when you say that you have like 50% of a facility taking their own students. Some other facilities, you don't even have that case. So, like in my case now, they didn't take like my class. In my class, we're just two at the time I started internship, and we're really hoping that they were going to take at least half of the class, but they just took two of us. So facilities where they're even taking their own students is even good, right? But of course, they can do better, because why will you train people and then not be able to take them into a facility, right? So, but some facilities are even doing worse than that, and really, it's really a sad story to tell.
Oh, did I even forget to mention the states that pick their indigenous more?
I was going to talk about that. I was going to talk about that. The criminal disallowed me.
It is sad to see that some states consider their indigenous more. So you will come and you discover that 60 or 70% of the Indians are from that state. And then you will now be wondering, the rest of us that are from other regions of this country are from other states, what happens to us? And some of our states don't have federal medical centers, or they only have one teaching hospitals, and they do the whole zone picking from each zone. It's a whole lot, please.
A hospital I know did this tribalism stuff down to local government. People of that same state were not able to get, like, if you are not from a certain cluster of local government, you could not get internship in that hospital. Like, it's crazy.
So,
Actually, it is crazy.
all right. So, lastly, I would want you to tell us, like, what message do you have to share to students who are currently in school and people who are still facing this problem? Let me start with Muiwa.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm thinking of all of my friends that have had to go through this phase, and maybe just a reminder that you're the one, you still you the same person that got into medical school, that went through the whole ordeal and came out, with it, with a very good degree. I mean, you have first class students that haven't gotten internship still. You have people like, it's crazy. Like, you have people that were even into student union government, and you think those ones have all the connections in the world. Some of them are like that, they haven't gotten internship. So maybe just a reminder that um it may feel like a rejection, may feel like you're stuck, but I like to say that life doesn't have to go in a linear way, because we've been taught, maybe unconsciously, that life has to go in a linear direction. So you have to move from primary school, secondary school, like that, and then do masters and PhD and whatever. So, but it doesn't have to go that way. What you find yourself doing now could even be what would eventually help you become that person. You know, there was a friend of mine that she was working with an NGO, and then she was writing grants. She was doing grant applications for them, and they got a grant. Like, the period of waiting wasn't wasted. She had a grant that she applied for to her name. She can put that in a CV anywhere. I was even telling her at some point, that it's possible that you come across an opportunity while doing internship that you can take advantage of because of what you did while waiting, right? So life is not linear. There are people that finish internship and it's back to square one. So you may feel like you're stuck, you're not, right? You're just going through life in your own path. There's a thing I like to say, although it's like alluded to Christianity. There's something somebody always used to tell me, that you cannot be holy except in the path that God has made for you to be holy. So in the same way, like you cannot, whatever your purpose is in life, you cannot take another path except the path that has been designed or laid down for you, or the path that you have to walk, maybe not even designed for you, for those who don't believe in all of that thing. The path, it's your path that you have to walk. So forget about what you're saying. They say comparison is a thief of joy. Just focus on your own journey, what you're learning every day, the experience you're gaining, whether it's internship or not. Again, internship is just 1 year, right? Just focus on that and understand that life doesn't happen in linear um, direction. Do what you're doing. When you get the internship, you'll get it. And when you get it, you'll be grateful that you did not wait doing nothing while you were in your waiting period. So get the internship. When you get it, do it, do it well, gather all the experience you can get to, and you finish, go back to what you were doing. Like life goes on, life continues. I think people also have to understand that um I don't want to sound insensitive, but it is not internship that is going to determine your career path in life. Even though it plays a role, you cannot tell how significant that role will be. Like everybody's path is different, right? But I can say for sure that it is not internship that would determine if you don't, you know, the main reason why most of us are doing internships is because it's mandatory, right? If it's not mandatory, some people already know that they're going to go and do masters and PhD, and they're never going to practice on bench, right? If you allow those people, they will never do internship, right? So it is not internship that ultimately defines what your career is going to look like in future, right? But yeah, still get it and do it. And it's not internship that would make you rich. It's not internship that will make you, I don't know. It's not internship that will add value. There's no, I don't think there's any prestige in being called an intern, right? The prestige is being called a medical laboratory scientist. And what makes you a medical laboratory scientist is, yeah, your license to practice, yeah, but it's actually your degree, right? Because it's your degree that makes you qualified to get that license eventually, right? So um there's somebody, I met somebody today, and the person was like, intern me. I'm like, no, that was back in the days. I'm no longer an intern. But the point I'm trying to make is it's the fact that you're a medical laboratory scientist, right? And they say champions are not made in the ring, they are recognized, they are only recognized there. It is not the license that makes you that, it is who you are, it's your worth as a person, what you know in the sciences, what you know in the medical laboratory science, that makes you a medical laboratory scientist. So like, just remember all of these things. Um, Live your life. You would eventually get it. I hope and pray that you would eventually get it. All of us would get it. And I'm looking forward to working with all of us sometime in the future, internship or not. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
Amen. Amen to getting it. So I wanted to quickly add that one thing I wish I knew earlier was that when it comes to internship applications, it's it's better that you focus on a few places. For instance, if you have like two favorite places you want to be based on location or places you feel like you have a better chance of getting, just focus on those places and do everything within your power. When I mean everything, I mean everything within your power to make sure that you get into those places. So instead of like just applying to a whole lot of places, this is like a personal, it might not work for everybody, but I feel like this is something that can help if you are able to like just focus on a place. If keep your ears down to know how people are actually getting into that place, whether it is by merit, it's by money, it's by connection, or whatever it is, and try to get into those places that you prefer. It would be better than just applying to a lot of places and hoping that you get. Because to be honest, the system is a lot messier. If you're a student and you're listening, the system is messy. So you don't come in hoping that, I mean, there is still merit, but it's like very slim. But yeah, just keep your ears down and do everything you can do to get into the places you want to get into.
And I
I think
think
that
I
was
would add to add to what confidence is saying, to save yourself the whole stress of having to travel, ask questions. There are facilities that you just know that you applying there and traveling is a waste of time. A lot of people don't get. So ask questions so that you save yourself the whole trauma and stress of having to apply, and at the end of the day nothing comes up. Just ask questions, ask those who have gotten internship, and like she said, have areas you are focused on. Don't be following the crowd. Be yourself. If you feel you're not ready to start applying, like I didn't start applying immediately because I felt I wasn't ready for the emotional stress of not being called. So I had to prepare myself, and when I was ready, I started application, and that was it for me. So I had already prepared myself. So you would see your colleagues applying. Everybody's asking you, started, have you started applying? Where did you apply? Everybody wants to know where you applied. So make your research, find out facilities that are based on merit. What is the criteria so that it saves you the stress of having to do a lot of journeys, having to spend money, putting your life at risk. We've had stories of people dying on the road due to accident on their ways to internship exams on their way coming back. It's like Muyiwa said, a year. It's just 1 year. It's not worth the whole stress of putting your life at risk because you're doing a whole lot of trials. I said you want to tour around Nigeria, which is fine.
Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I would like to say a big thank you to Oluwamuyiwa and Gimbiya for sharing practical advice. And this brings us to the end of this amazing conversation. If there is one takeaway from this episode, it is that while you wait for an internship placement can be frustrating, it is also an opportunity for you to build yourself, for you to reflect, build meaningful connections, and also prepare for the professional journey ahead. So, to all graduates that are waiting in between this season, keep the faith, stay active, and remember to make the time count. And as always, we would like to hear your thoughts. How long did it take you to get a placement? What is your story? And you can do this by dropping a mail for us at medlabconvolabcast@gmail.com, or connect with us on social media at medlabconvo. And of course, if you are yet to subscribe to LabCast, please kindly do so that you don't miss out of the future episodes. And we are just getting started. So till next time, keep the conversation going, keep pushing for the change, and most importantly, keep fighting. This is where we draw the curtain for this episode. Bye.